Hello and welcome back to the Scenario 7 podcast YouTube channel. My name is Sam and this is week 20 of our F1 Fantasy Show. In this episode, we'll be looking back at how we did in the US, talking about price changes and looking ahead to this weekend's Mexican Grand Prix, going through Matt's team and any alternatives he might look to swap in before the deadline. But before anything else, let's introduce our fantasy expert, Matt Collier. How are you doing, mate?
I'm doing good, thank you, Sam. Nice weather currently. Nice to see the sun and be outside for a bit. So yeah, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, it's a lovely day today, to be honest. I haven't been out and enjoyed the weather yet, but I'll need to make sure that I do that at some point because let's be honest, we're not going to get a whole lot more of this weather heading into the rest of the year. But first things first, let's look back to COTA and see where we sit in the Scenario 7 podcast fantasy table, starting with Performer of the Week, where we look back at the top performer from the last race. And in Austin, it was Aaron Kay with 264 points in that race. He had Norris as his turbo driver, bit of a rogue pick, with 68 points, Hamilton with 54, Magnussen with 21, Verstappen with 46, and Alex Albon with 6 points. So Norris, of course, making sense because Hamilton and Verstappen can have been the turbo driver, and you're not exactly going to pick Magnussen or Albon. So, yeah, fantastic week for him. And he is now second in the table. But to the top of the table, that remains Andrew T with 3,908 points. Despite the gap to second going down to 23 points, he is the only driver near him that still has a Mega Driver chip left. So he's sitting pretty comfortably as long as he doesn't put his Mega Driver on someone he gets minus points. But I think that's quite unlikely, to be fair. Matt, you sit in 11th on 3,576 points. But without going into too much detail, were you happy with that points tally?
Yeah, very pleased with how I did. Seventh for the week. So yeah, I can't really complain about it. Yeah, very good week.
Yeah, I mean, the aim is always to get just in the top 10 each week for our league. And that's just where you'll consistently see yourself edging closer to the illustrious top 10. But yeah, very solid points tally and week from you, which we'll go into more detail in a bit. But now to me, and I sit in 27th place on 3,203 points. I got 111 points in the US, which was, I think, the 69th best in the league. So really great effort from me in the US. But I'm not very happy about it. I spoke to Matt about it before this podcast. I had Verstappen, who got 46, Perez, who got 23. Alonso, my turbo driver, got me -4, which I'm going to rant about now. Daylight robbery, the FIA. It was such a stupid decision because he may have crashed with Stroll, but he recovered fantastically. His recovery drive was unbelievable, and they finished the race and they haven't told him to. I mean, he had a wobbly wing mirror which ended up coming off, but didn't hit anything. And then they finished the race. No one had told him they had to pit and take off the wing mirror. And then they did their post race checks, give him the all clear, and you're thinking, brilliant, he's just got me some great points. But no, then Haas, who I used to like, now I don't like them as much, decided to put a little protest in, and the FIA changed their decision and deducted him to 14th or 15th or something. And it's like every time Magnussen has something wrong, you get on the team radio immediately, tell him to pit, tell him to get rid of it. With Alonso, they were radio silent. They did the all clear with the car. They checked the car after the race and said it was fine. And then because of a protest, changed their decision. It was a daylight robbery. I'm not over it. But then the other drivers in my team, Bottas -4, yeah, decided to go like get stuck in gravel. Not ideal. Kevin Magnussen 21 and Ferrari 29 with signs crashing out or getting spun on the first lap and not being able to recover. So it's not been a great race week for me. Bit of a rant there. Wasn't really happy with it all. But yeah, that was my team and still sitting in 27th. So I'm not too unhappy about that. Let's go more in depth with last week's team. Matt, can you talk us through your last week's selection?
Yeah, sure. So, yeah, as I explained earlier, I was seventh for the week. Really happy with how I'd done. I got 191 points. The only small negative was my turbo driver being Science DNFing. Fair play to all those very bold and brave people that had Norris as their turbo driver, and they definitely benefited massively from it. So yeah, Norris got me 34 points. He got his race streak of plus 10. And yeah, I think he finished like P6 in the end. He had a really solid race. Sergio Perez got 23 points. Didn't quite finish on the podium. Still a good amount of points. Kevin Magnussen got 21 points. Fair play to Haas for the only team trying a one stop, and it paid off. So well done to them. So Magnussen got 21 points. Carlos Sainz is my turbo driver. He got 10 points. Yeah, just got taken out by Russell at the first corner. Leclerc got 34 points. Still very good race from Leclerc. And then my constructor got me 69 points, totaling to 191 points. And yeah, got most of the streaks and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, very good weekend.
Yeah, very good weekend indeed. Now let's look at some price changes. And as always, there have been several fluctuations since the last race and will continue to be until the deadline. What we talk about now is the prices at the time of recording and are likely to change. So, Matt, let's start with the drivers. What changes stand out to you?
Yeah, as always, the market's going to be manic. Play On, who is the providers of F1 Fancy, seem to do whatever the hell they want, basically. 1 week they want to get points per million, and yeah, I've called to my sources and that they're now kind of doing it on what happened in the last race. Hence why Alonso's plummeted, Stroll's plummeted, Ricardo. So yeah, the market's always going to be absolutely mental. But yeah, onto the drivers. Paris has increased by zero point 0.4. He's gone from 22.4 million up to 22.8 million. Kevin Manson has gone from 6 million up to 6.4 million, increase of 0.4. And yeah, this price change came with absolutely nowhere. There was no warning of it. I check it basically every day for like 2 minutes or so. And yeah, all of a sudden in one day, Magnussen's price is shot by 0.4. It kind of just proves that Play On do whatever they want. Ricardo, he's gone down 0.3 billion. He's gone from 6.1 down to 5.8. And yeah, they're the main driver changes.
Yeah, some interesting changes there with the drivers. It is weird how playing or the organization that run F1 Manager keep changing how they do it, and it just basically means the market is completely crazy. But what about constructors? Any interesting changes there?
Yeah, there's a few. There's your original ones. Basically, every week, Red Bull and Ferrari go up. Red Bull have increased by 0.4. They've gone from 38.2 up to 38.6 million. Alpine have decreased by 0.2. They've gone from 13.6 down to 13.4 million. And then Alfa Romeo have decreased by 0.2. They've gone from 6.9 million down to 6.7 million. And yeah, the market's always going to be crazy, but they're the main price changes.
Yeah, some interesting changes indeed. Let's look at the team that you might be deploying this week. And of course, we need to preface this with the fact that this is subject to change, as the deadline is not until Saturday and practice sessions can be used as an insight into how teams will perform this weekend. First up, it's Fernando Alonso, costing 10.9 million in your only change for this week. He's being bought in for Lando Norris. Why have you decided to swap these drivers around, especially after Lando had such a good race in the US?
Well, it's just streaks. Simple as that. Norris had a streak in America and got the extra +10. This week, Alonso's a qualifying streak, so again, extra +5 if he finishes in the top 10 for quali. And yeah, Alpine have obviously taken fresh engine components as well. And yeah, I think Alpine definitely the faster car compared to McLaren. It's just Alonso's had so much bad luck this season. So yeah, so I brought Alonso in for my team.
Fair enough. And your second driver will be Sergio Perez, valued at 22.8 million. Why does he keep his place?
Once again, he's in the quickest car, and yeah, it's his home race this weekend. So I have to wait and see how he does. But he'll definitely be spurred on by his home fans. So that's why he keeps his place.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I'm already tempted to use my Mega Driver chip on Sergio Perez this weekend. Not because it's a good idea, but because that's what my heart is telling me.
You did,
You've
to be
got
fair, you did do it out in Baku, and he ended up winning. So
exactly. So if whoever I Mega Driver will win the race, I think that's what we're saying. So if I Mega Driver Sergio Perez, he will get the home win and we'll get to see his dad basically running everywhere, just celebrating. And that is what I hope happens. But back to your team, Kevin Magnussen also keeps his place, valued at 6.4 million, had a great last lap battle with Sebastian Vettel and picked up some good points as well. But why does he keep his place?
but I think Haas's straight line speed should be promising around Mexico. And yeah, there's been so many examples of Magnussen in the top 10 and him getting wing damage, getting the black and orange flag. Um, yeah, it was nice to see him not get one of those black and orange flags this race and for him to actually battle the likes of the top 10 and, of course, finishing the points. So, yeah, that's why he keeps his place in my team.
Fair enough. Now, Carlos Sainz is the first of the two Ferraris in your team and will be your turbo driver this week, costing 18.7 million. Why is Sainz in your team, especially after his DNF last race?
Yeah, this is a very interesting one because obviously you can't choose Leclerc anymore. You can't choose Perez, and the go-to one is Sainz. But yeah, it depends what people want to do. Like last week, people took the gamble and went for Norris because he had a race streak and benefited massively. But yeah, it's clear that Sainz is in a very quick car. He's just had so much bad luck this season. He's got a qualifying streak this weekend as well, so get extra +5 finishes in the top 10. And yeah, most people will choose Sainz, but there's always a few trying to climb the table that will maybe choose a differential. So yeah, that's why Sainz keeps his place.
Yeah, there were people that took a gamble and picked Norris last week, and then there was me who gambled and turbo driver Alonso. So thank you, FIA. Still not over it. Charles Leclerc is the final driver to keep his place in your team, completing a Ferrari double, 24.1 million. Why does he stay?
Yeah, he's just basically, I think he's been in my team for the whole season. And yeah, his price is still going up every week, basically. And yeah, he's in a very quick car. There's not really much else to say about that.
Yeah, I mean, he's a bit of a no-brainer, to be honest. He's got a good value and he's in a good car. But let's move on to the constructor, and Red Bull remains the obvious choice at 38.6 million. Why have you kept Red Bull?
Well, Verstappen's quite good at this track. Perez is obviously from Mexico and his home Grand Prix, and Red Bull also got a race streak this weekend, so an extra +10 if they both finish in the points. And yeah, it's kind of just the go-to, really. That's why I've kept them in my team.
Yeah, I mean, Red Bull are very strong. So now we've gone through your team, but who are some alternatives you're looking to potentially swap in before the deadline and the people at home could consider putting in their teams?
Yeah, so on each show I go through three alternatives. I go through one constructor and two drivers. The constructor I've gone for is Mercedes. They're currently priced at 31.3 million. They've got a qualifying streak and a race streak this weekend, so potential for an extra plus 15 points. And yeah, they brought upgrades to the USA, and yeah, Hamilton potentially could have won that race. It was definitely looking very close, so it could be a good weekend for Mercedes. Now onto the drivers. I've gone with Bottas, currently priced at 8.8 million. Speaking of upgrades, he's also had new upgrades on his car in the last few races. Bit unlucky, to be fair, last week out in America. He was kind of around that top 10 and then just lost it, I think, the second to last corner. But yeah, it's looking promising, especially because their straight line speed is quite good. And on to another driver, Pierre Gasly. He's currently priced at 8.7 million, finished P4 last year. So yeah, it might be one of his favourite tracks. And yeah, they're the alternatives you consider to put in your team.
Some interesting picks there. Valtteri Bottas is in my team, so hopefully he ends up getting me some good points. But that wraps up our video. I hope you found it helpful. A reminder that the deadline for changes is qualifying, so get your team finalised by then. Remember to like and subscribe. Follow us on our socials, linked down below, along with our fancy league code if you would still like to join, despite the fact there are 3 races left. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.